Okay.
Now we can hear you, Bhante.
Okay, I didn't start to speak yet. Okay, I'm just waiting another minute for people to come on. You know what I think? 150. Since we had just one session of the instructions on developing the whole body awareness, I think we should have another session of that practice, another guided session, and then we'll take questions rather than start with a review and question. Well, maybe we should take a few minutes of questions just in case anything was unclear in my instructions. But there's not so much for me to review now because I want to do the review when we do the actual next session. Then I will do it as a kind of guided review of the practice. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
Bhante.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see if there's any questions. And the way to ask the questions, anybody not familiar, at the bottom of your Zoom panel, you'll see one little item is called reactions, and you click that, and then you get a number of options. Of course, if you want to send me a heart, I'd appreciate it. If you want to put a thumbs up, I'd be very happy with that. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is among the icons that you see, one is raise hand. And then you click the raise hand, and then you can ask the question. Okay, so let us go. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, Mark put a upper thumb. Okay, good. Okay, so Mark from Beacon, New York.
Hi, Bhante.
Hi.
Very good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Oh, very beautiful view of the Hudson River behind you.
And that's
Yeah, we're getting that bounce, the feedback or the echo. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Bhante. My question is a sort of a comment and a technique question.
Yeah.
You mentioned how difficult it is to go from just the breath here to the body. And I usually sit. I found for myself doing body work and sweeping, body sweep, laying down, getting grounded is one of the four or many methods of being able to be mindful, is for me a great way to be in touch with my body, the somatic self. Is that permitted? Is that something that the Buddha would have suggested? Because sometimes sitting in this posture, one gets numb, one doesn't feel oneself as well. That really is my question, is the contact points being rounded.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, as an auxiliary practice, you could do lying down and then developing like full body awareness while lying down. Yeah, but now since we're doing like formal sort of group meditation with everybody in the sitting position, then everybody should do it in the sitting position.
Thank you, Bhante.
But during like break periods or outside the retreat, if you want to work on sort of developing or expanding the full body awareness while lying down, then do it lying down. Like all postures are, I mean, the ideal is to be able to preserve to some extent the full body awareness in all postures. So it seems to me from my own experience, as far as, you know, the meditative practice, it goes more deeply in my experience, in the sitting position. Okay, then next, it seems we have Mariam in California. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. I have a couple of questions. One is, I loved the instruction. So I'm excited for the next set that we're going to sit and follow the guided meditation that we had earlier. My experience has been, after I hear these instruction a couple of times, my mind gets used to them.
Yeah.
So I go into an autopilot.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know what would be the antidote for going. Is it alertness, mindfulness, a combination of both, being vigilant, or how to get out of the autopilot while you are sitting and following the instruction?
Well, so far I've given just one round of these instructions.
Yes.
Then I'll give another round when we do the next formal session of sitting.
Yes.
And then I'm push you off the cliff, and then you have to fly on your own.
Even with myself, when I memorize the instruction,
Yeah.
I find it becomes auto, and I'm not really into it as I am the first 2 or 3 times that I'm listening to that. So I was hoping
anyway, but if you don't, it doesn't, like, if you feel that you've learned the method of practice after the first 1 or 2 rounds of instruction, then if I'm giving a 3rd or 4th round of instruction, turn me off. And just do the practice and let that monk be blabbing and blabbing and blabbing, and don't pay any attention to him. Just do the practice on your own.
I see. Okay, thank you. My next question is, in your instruction, when you said pay attention to the feeling inside when you are inhaling and exhaling from bottom to head to bottom.
Yeah.
I was imagining, actually, as I inhaled, I have all the flesh, bone marrows, the whole 32 bodies and everything. And as I was exhaling, all of them went away. And then I just felt it like that the body comes and goes. And I didn't know if I should pay attention to the 3 characteristics of the body, or when you say inside, if you can elaborate it, what you exactly mean.
First, don't use imagination.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm not bringing in anything like the 3 characteristics, but just pay attention to what you feel in the body, what you can actually feel in your own, what I call the concrete, tactile experience of the body as you're moving through the different regions of the body, or as you're sweeping the body. Just the way the body actually feels in its immediate, concrete, tactile reality. The various sensations that arise.
Okay, so like feeling, no feeling, neutral feeling, pain feeling, these type of things as I am sitting.
Yeah, though I'm not thinking so much in terms of classifying the feeling. Again, that's using schemes of classification, pleasant, painful, neutral, but not using schemes of classification, but just in a way turning off the conceptual categorizing work of the mind and just feeling or experiencing, how are you feeling or experiencing the body from the inside in its immediate reality?
I guess it takes a lot of practice. Thank you.
It takes practice, and it's something that builds up sequentially
Okay.
through repetition. It's sort of like, yeah, a simile occurred to me. Yeah, this was when I was doing my own retreat. It's like you're on one side of a wall and there are some people talking on the other side of the wall behind the door, and you want to hear what they're saying, and you keep on listening more and more intently. And as you listen more and more intently, then you can gradually sort of tune into what they're saying. So in a way, that's what we're doing with the body. We're sort of tuning into the felt, to the feelings, or this sort of sensory, tactile experience of what is going on in the body.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So then you lower the hand when you finish. And then the next will be Joyce. Joyce.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. So a couple of questions. When you are suggesting when we feel discomfort to sit with the discomfort until it becomes such a distraction, I notice that discomfort frequently comes because I've let go of the appropriate posture. So I'm kind of confirming that it would be okay in that moment to recognize, oh, I'm slouching, my head is just to bring myself mindfully back into appropriate posture.
Yeah, certainly, definitely. Yeah.
All right. So thank you. That was one. And then with regard to today's practice, when we're doing the region by region area, and I notice that I'm getting lost in the alleyways of my mind, which can be quite interesting, but nonetheless not where I want to be. Should I return in the same way that I do with mindfulness of breath, coming back to my seat, coming back to the breath, and then coming back to the region? Or am I just coming right back to the region?
I would say come right back to the region.
All right.
So I don't know that there are fixed laws in this. So, I mean, while I'm guiding, then just follow my verbal guidance. But
Right.
once you're practicing on your own, you experiment and then see what works best. That's what I always feel. It's like setting out a number of tools, and then you have to see what tool will work best for you, whether it's a hammer, a nail, a chisel, a knife.
Okay. All right. So then playing with what the responses are, and just with what Miriam was asking, we're looking at its sensations as in tingling or pulsing. I mean, I don't have to label them, but the body sensations as they are or as they are connected to what's happening with breathing.
The way I say it, you're mindful of the breathing.
Right.
Okay, but you're experiencing what is going on in the body. Okay, so experiencing the whole body, I breathe in. And the way I put it more concisely is whole body in, whole body out. Yeah, you'll be noting the difference in the sensations that accompany the in and out breath.
Breath. Okay.
Like with the out breath, there's more like an expanding sensations. With the in breath, with the in breath, there's the expanding sensation. With the out breath, more contraction or tightening.
Or an increase in tingling or pulsing.
Yeah.
With the body scan, last one, with the body scan, I noticed that the breath was following the scan so I could get more body in. And so deeper, longer breath. And as opposed to this is how I'm normally breathing, and this is how much I can scan when I'm normally breathing.
Yeah, what I suggest is do a fairly normal breath, not to artificially lengthen the breath, because sometimes if you do that too often, you can get like exhausted from over hyperventilation.
All right, thank you.
And like, don't worry if you don't get everything in with each sweep. But it's a matter of like doing one after another several times, and then each time you get somewhat more sensitive to what's taking place in the body.
Thank you so much. So helpful. Thank you.
Okay. So that is Joyce, and next will be Maria O'Neill. Okay.
Hi, Bhante. Thanks so much for your teaching. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question that has to do with something that happens with me as I practice, when I practice more than an hour or two. And maybe I should leave this question till later. It's not quite related to what you've been teaching, but it is.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So when I start out, I practice, with mindfulness of the breathing and the body. And generally speaking, I have a lot of illness and anxiety I practice with, but generally speaking, I go into a place that's pretty spacious and light and happy. And the body likes meditating. So that's not an issue. But after 2 or 3 or 4 hours, I begin to get so hypersensitized and I get flooded. And the way it happens is I'm going along and I'm mindful of the breathing and the body, and I'm pretty contented. There's some thinking and there's some hindrances, but they're not a big deal. They're mostly in the background. And then I become aware that I'm suffering so much, that I'm so miserable. And there's so much self-hatred that comes up, and it's just too much for me to actually practice with. So what I've been doing is stopping, and doing some walking, and sometimes just taking my mind off it completely, because it doesn't seem like a healthy thing. But I thought you might have some pointers for me.
I would say in a retreat like this, with the particular approaches that we're using in this retreat, then if you find this becoming like overwhelming, certain things becoming overwhelming, then I'd say to put it aside for the time being and do something else, and then come back after a while and rejoin. But as a general practice, what one can do, I would say, to deal with those kinds of particularly oppressive mental states, even including self-hatred, is to practice more what I call enlightening meditations, like particularly loving kindness meditation and the mudita, the altruistic joy meditations. And I taught one mode of doing the altruistic joy this past Wednesday with our Wednesday evening meditation group. I don't know if you were there. And then I'll teach the other way of doing the altruistic joy this coming Wednesday. And then I'm recording them, and then we'll put them up on the Buddhist Association website, just the audio recording, so that you can learn those meditations through the recordings. I think the joy meditation especially helps to counteract the heavy, oppressive, dark moods of the mind.
Thank you so much. That feels right to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it just feels like you need to enter into meditation with a certain lightness, or it's not a good thing to repeatedly kind of dig the hole deeper and deeper.
Yeah. And I should mention also, while we're at it, in relation to that question, this meditation and the one that we're going to be doing tomorrow can sometimes bring up a lot of sort of buried, in the case of this, the body meditation, sort of buried, maybe the word trauma is too strong, but painful experiences which are sort of buried in the muscles and tissues, and they can come flooding into the mind. And so one has to be able to deal with them skillfully. So I suggest if they come up, people don't immediately stop the meditation unless they're really painful traumatic memories that one can't deal with. But look at them and sort of see that it's just the work of the mind, that this is part of the process of the meditation, is sort of releasing a lot of stuff that's sort of built up and been encoded into the tissues and not coming into active memory. And now it's sort of releasing that into the mind. And so the most effective way to get through it is just to acknowledge it and drop it, let it go. recognize this is the way, the part of the interaction of body and mind, and then let those memories go and then come back to the sensations of the body. And tomorrow we'll be doing that directly with the mind. But in your case, if you really find it becomes too difficult to persist with the practice, then I say to lay it down for an hour or so, then rejoin at a later session.
Thank
Does that make sense? Okay, now we come to Samantha Jayatilaka.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Bhante, for taking my question. I just want to clarify whether I'm not sure whether I'm getting confused here, because now the mindfulness of the breath in the body awareness, and also which I normally am used to doing, is the 16 steps of the Anapana.
Yeah.
So this is the Kayanapasana in the first tetrad of the Satipatthana. There are different postures. You've got the 9 different things, and the Asubha Bhavana and all the different things. And then you've got the mindfulness of the breathing there as well.
Yeah.
And is that separate from the 16 steps of the Anapana stages? Because when I do the Anapana, I understand eventually, I haven't got to these stages yet, but the breath eventually disappears, and also the feeling of the body also disappears. So then I'm just wondering, how can I use the breath to do the body awareness, if that is the case? So are there 2 separate meditations? Am I getting confused, Bhante?
I'm not sure. What do you mean? What 2 separate things? What are the 2 separate meditations?
Oh, sorry. The 16 stages of the Anapana Sutta, and the breath and the body awareness in the Kayanapasana.
Yeah. What the practice that we're doing now is included in the first tetrad of the Anapanasati method. So what we did yesterday and the first session this morning is basically when breathing in long, one knows it. When breathing in, breathing out long, one knows I'm breathing in, breathing out long. When breathing in or breathing out short, one knows I'm breathing in, breathing out short. So we are following the entire duration of the breath. Those are the first 2 steps of the 16 or of the 4 in the Kayanopasana section. Now we're in the 3rd step, experiencing the whole body. I will breathe in, thus one trains. Experiencing the whole body, I will breathe out, thus one trains. So that's the third step.
The 3rd step. So doing this way, you don't go into, some jhanas and that sort of thing. That's different.
Yeah, I'm not teaching in that way. And I actually don't see in the 16 steps of Anapanasati as taught in the Anapanasati Sutta, I don't see it as being a jhanic system of meditation, even though I know the tradition, the Theravada tradition teaches it in that way. But this gets a bit into the theoretical explanations.
Yes. Thank you, Bhante, for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, next is Chua Pear Shen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly.
Yes, correct. Hi, Bhante.
Hi.
Yeah, okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, very good.
Yeah, okay. I just want to clarify on the technique on the mindfulness of the breathing, because I was taught previously by another school is to count the exhalation. That means count the out breath 1 to 10, and then recount from 1 to 10 as part of the mindfulness of breathing. Actually, is that encouraged, or would you want to? I mean, do you?
Yeah, there are many methods of doing mindfulness of breathing, and sort of a lot of the traditional teachers use the counting of the breath. When I started many years ago doing Anapanasati, I was also taught to do with the counting of the breath. But at a certain point, what I found is that with the counting, the mind becomes too much entangled in the number of the count. And when before long, when it's not following the breath anymore, but when it's just worried and anxious, am I keeping the correct count of the breath? So I don't like to use the counting, but just to go direct the way I explained yesterday, just go directly to following the breath in and out without counting. And in the suttas also, we don't find the counting of the breath. So I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's just that it's a method that was introduced by teachers, since for certain people, maybe they would find it useful, particularly like maybe little boys, little young monks who are learning to meditate. And so it keeps the mind occupied by having to count the breath. But myself and a number of other people that I spoke with found that the counting sort of becomes a bit of a distraction. So just sort of follow the way I'm explaining here. And at other times, if you like to do the counting, then you can do so. Okay, was that the question then? Okay, then we'll take one more question. This is Anne Fuller. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. I had a question about when you're doing this sweeping body scan, since it goes by pretty fast, are we still trying to focus on the feelings, or is it more of a conceptual thing?
Yeah, it's still trying to pick up the feelings, but as I said in the morning, whatever feeling becomes manifest. And you don't have to be concerned trying to get everything in, because if you try to get everything in, especially in the early stages, you have to artificially extend the breath so that it's much too long, or you'll just will feel disappointed that you're missing a lot if you're breathing at the normal pace. So you just try to get whatever you can with the upward sweep, whatever you can with the downward sweep, and not to worry if you're missing something. But as you go on sweeping a few times, you start to pick up more each time. It's a matter of sort of getting gradually more and more familiar with the sweep of the body.
Okay, great. Thank you. I must have been asleep through that this morning. Thank you.
Okay, anyway, I'll be going through the process again. Okay, so it's 2:18. Oh, I see one more. I just saw a hand come up. Okay, this will be the last question. And this is Hannah.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Speak a little more softly. Okay.
Okay. Quick question, just a follow-up to that one. So it's observing the sensations or observing the feeling? Sensations meaning the physical sensations of the body, or the feeling that it's like neutral, positive, negative?
Well,
thank you.
I didn't quite get the alternative.
So the sensations will be like the pressure, the touch, the position, whereas the feeling is like, oh, good feeling, negative feeling, neutral feeling. So sensation?
Yeah, just feeling the sensations, not categorizing or evaluating the feelings, whether they're pleasant, painful, neutral, just whatever you sense in the body. And just sort of sweeping it through from feet to the head, head to the feet. And sort of the objective is to, in a way, to familiarize the mind with what I call the tactile sense of the body, and then to move into the third phase, which is experiencing the whole body in its totality as one is breathing in and breathing out. Okay, we could just stand up for a minute or two, do a little stretch before doing the first sitting. And you don't have to imitate the bending and stretching that I do. I'm just doing whatever comes into my mind. But if you have any ways of bending or stretching that are convenient for yourself, you do that. Okay, we could return to the seats. Okay, we'll make this a 40-minute session. Okay, so we start off being mindful of the body in the sitting position. Settle into the body. And you can relax any tension in the body. Okay, we begin with the regional, what I call the regional scan. And so start with the head, and be mindful, experiencing the head. I breathe in, experiencing the head. I breathe out. Again, you're looking just for what I call the concrete, tangible sense of the physical, sentient physical entity, which is the head. Then experiencing the face, my face, the cheeks, the lips, the chin. I breathe in, experiencing my face. I breathe out. Then moving to the neck, including the throat. Experiencing the neck, I breathe in. Experiencing the neck, I breathe out. Then move to the shoulders, experiencing the shoulders. I breathe in. Experiencing the shoulders, I breathe out. Then down to the upper arms. Notice any difference in the sensations as you're breathing in and breathing out. Maybe a tightening of the muscles as you're breathing in, and a relaxation as you're breathing out. Then to the lower arms. Then to the hands. Okay, then back up to the shoulders, and then to the upper part of the torso, the chest, and then right through the internal body to the back. Again, notice changes as you're breathing in, breathing out. Then come to the lower part of the torso, the abdomen, the contents of the abdomen, right through to the back. Then we come to the pelvic region, the hips, the pubic region, again, always keep on attending to the changing sensations as you're breathing in and breathing out. Then to the buttocks, pressing against the seat. Then come to the thighs, the knees, the lower legs, then the feet, then come back to the body in its fullness in the sitting position. Okay, now we're going to do a few rounds of sweeping through the body. So with the in-breath, you sweep upward from the feet, up to the top of the head. Whatever you can pick up. There'll be big gaps, but don't worry about that. But just try to sweep up and pick up any sensations that become manifest. And then with the out breath, you sweep down from the top of the head, all the ways down to the soles of the feet. It's just like you pour a bucket of water over your head. with the water flowing down, but now it's the mindfulness sweeping downward from the head to the feet through inside the body. Okay, and now switch gears into experiencing or trying to experience the entire body, the body in its totality, with each in-breath and with each out-breath. And again, there are going to be gaps, empty spaces, vague areas. It doesn't matter, but you keep on trying to attend more and more closely to the sensations of the body, correlating the sensations with the in-breath and the out-breath. So experiencing the whole body. Right now, in the present, I breathe in, experiencing the whole body. Right now, in the present, I breathe out. And as you progress with the process, then more and more areas of the body that are now blank or vague will start to speak up and become evident, become manifest. As I said before, it's as if the body is telling you secrets in a whisper, a faint whisper, and you have to listen more and more closely to find out what the body is saying by way of its sensations. And from time to time, if the mindfulness starts to get a little sort of vague and drifting, then you can turn back to the sweeping. You could do some rounds of sweeping, the quick sweeping through the body. You don't have to do the regional scans again unless you want to, but you could do a few sweeps up and down and then come back to the full body awareness, full body, experiencing the full body. And if there are a lot of distracting thoughts coming into the mind, then you can do a few rounds of mindfulness of breathing around the nostrils to sharpen up the attention, to sharpen the mindfulness, and then come back to the full body awareness. It's like you have an axe and you're trying to chop down a tree, and you make some cuts in the tree, then the blade of the axe gets a little bit blunt, and then you go back and you sharpen the blade again, and then you return to chopping at the tree. Okay, continue now on your own. So you have 3 tools to use. The objective, the ideal, is to remain in the full body awareness correlated with the in and out breathing. But when that gets a bit vague and you want to sharpen or to strengthen the mindfulness of the body, then you can do the sweeping up and down. And if there's too much trouble with distracting thoughts, then you come back to the mindfulness of breathing, the simple mindfulness of breathing around the nostrils, and then come back to the full body awareness. So let's practice now in silence for the rest of the period. It's about 17 minutes on my clock. If you find it helpful, you could use as a mental noting device, whole body in, whole body out, whole body in, whole body out. But if you prefer not to use the noting, then there's no obligation to do so. Okay, you can relax now and end the session in the usual way. Okay, what we're going to do now, we will do a 20-minute walking meditation. And so in that case, 20, we'd be back in our seats at 3:25, and then I will hit the gong at 3:24. So we have some more time to go through the whole body meditation. Okay, am I on?
Yes, Bante.
Okay. Okay, again, I'll do this one as a guided session, at least through the regional scan. And then we'll go into the sweeping can do pretty much on your own, and then the full body awareness on your own. And then what we're going to do is make this a 35-minute session, ending at 4. And then for 10 minutes, I can take any questions that arise based on this technique. Just only questions on this technique, not more general questions. Okay, so take your familiar sitting position. And start off with a few rounds of mindfulness of breathing. Just the general mindfulness of breathing. Okay, now we're going to do the regional scan of the body. So start off with the head, experiencing my head. I breathe in, I breathe out. Experiencing my face. I breathe in, I breathe out. Experiencing my neck. I breathe in, I breathe out. Then the shoulders, breathing in, breathing out. And the upper arms, the lower arms, the hands, and up to the shoulders, and then to the chest or to the upper torso. Cross section right through the upper torso. Breathing in, breathing out. And the lower torso, the abdomen right through, including the back, the lower back, experiencing the lower torso, breathing in, breathing out. Then the pelvic region, the hips, and the lower abdomen and the pubic region. Breathing in, breathing out, pick up whatever you experience there. Then the buttocks, pressing on the seat, experiencing that region. I breathe in, I breathe out. Then experiencing the thighs. I breathe in, breathe out. Experiencing the knees. I breathe in, breathe out. Experiencing the lower legs, breathing in, breathing out. Experiencing the feet, breathing in, breathing out. Okay, now return to the full body in the sitting position. And now do a few cycles of sweeping. With the in-breath, sweep up from the feet to the top of the head. With the out-breath, sweep down from the top of the head, down to the soles of the feet. Again, picking up whatever you can experience, and don't worry that there are large blank areas or vague areas, but just pick up whatever becomes manifest. When you feel ready, then you can switch gears and move into the full body awareness, experiencing the whole body. I will breathe in experiencing the whole body. I will breathe out, trying to experience the entire body with a kind of global awareness, letting the mind just drop deeper and deeper into the felt experience of the body, not trying to form conceptual fabrications, but just let whatever emerges become manifest, the living felt experience of the body in its present immediacy. And I said before, if the mindfulness becomes too vague, then you can turn back to the sweeping, do a few sweeps up and down. If there's if the mind is overrun by distracted thinking, then do a few rounds of mindfulness of breathing around the nostrils, and then come back to the full body awareness. So you have to experiment and find what works for you. But now we'll continue the rest of the period in silence. We have 18 minutes for the session. Okay, you can relax now. And we have about 10 minutes left in this session, which I could devote to take any questions that arise specifically on this technique, not other questions. And the way to ask questions, just to repeat, on the Zoom screen on the bottom row, there's one feature called Reactions. You click that, and you'll see there the raise hand, and then you click that, and then your hand will appear in the participant box. Okay, so I see a couple of hands raised already. So the first is Tutu's iPad. So you can unmute. Okay.
Yes, Bhante, I just want to let you know that I am very, very happy to receive this meditation for the bodily things there, because as you can see, I have a little cat. She always sit on my lap every time I sit down cross-legged. So it was really painful. So I can't sit down very long, but now, by knowing that, breathe in from the feet to the head and breathe out from the feet, from the head to the feet, and my pain, as if that I can swoosh it out from the feet there, and I could sit down. Okay. So I am very, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is Amy. Amy, right? Yeah, you have to unmute. Okay, you're unmuted now.
So I was just trying to confirm that I guess what I'm feeling is like correct, or if I'm just like assuming it is, but like during the whole body like focus time, it kind of feels like the body itself is like kind of like, it's almost like pulses like in and out with the breath. That you can like feel all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to like double check. I wasn't like inferring that this was like the thing or not.
Yeah, sometimes naturally the attention will just naturally move to different areas.
Yeah.
That's sort of quite natural.
Okay.
But the objective is always to try to not to constrict the attention on one particular area, but always to be expanding so that you get as much of the body as you can. And then as you pay closer and closer attention, you pick up subtler and subtler levels of experience of what is taking place in the body.
It's almost like kind of also like a, like, I wouldn't say electrical, but like a slight sort of tingling sensation, like all over that kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, everybody has cats. You have a cat. Tutu, who asked the previous question, has a cat.
He's my meditation friend.
Okay. Next question is Hema Hey. And where is your cat?
Oh, no, I'm okay. Thank you, Bhante. Just like to clarify for the final stage to experience the full body, experiencing the full body.
Yeah.
Do I think when I breathe in and out, do I still have to think it's coming from the top to bottom or bottom to the top? Or is it a free flow when I go for the whole body?
Yeah, when you're doing the whole body, then you don't do the scanning or the sweep from the top, from the head to the feet, but you could alternate. You could do a period for some time of the full body awareness. Then if it starts to get a little hazy, a little vague, then to sharpen the mindfulness, then you could do the sweep, a few sweeps up and down and up, 2 or 3 sweeps, or 3 or 4 sweeps, then go back to the full body awareness.
Okay. So the full body awareness, I just breathe in and out without thinking from top to bottom. No need, right?
No thinking top to bottom. Just
come in.
Experiencing the whole body in, experiencing the whole body out.
And I noticed that when I do a long deep breathing in and out, I could focus much better about,
Yeah.
Or is it has to be a short, natural like that?
You breathe at the natural pace. You breathe at the natural
Oh,
rhythm.
Not a deeper one.
You don't artificially.
Not the deeper one.
Yeah, you don't deliberately try to deepen the breath.
Oh.
So sometimes
okay.
there'll be a deeper breath, sometimes a shorter breath, a more shallow breath. That doesn't matter.
Okay, and maybe I want to put off those days when I do my breathing, I thought through the whole body. I was doing like when I breathe in, it connect to all my cell in my body. So don't think of that way, or it's not right.
That would be engaging in conceptualization.
Okay.
But
yes.
It seems that when one is experiencing the whole body, one is picking up what I would call the sensations of what's taking place at the cellular level. But don't start thinking these are the cells of the body. But just keep your attention or your mindfulness to the level of what you're actually experiencing without imposing any kind of conceptual framework upon it.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for the clarity. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Sadhu.
Okay, then Brenda Walsh, and you can unmute. Okay.
Thank you so much for this retreat, Bhante. I have two quick questions. One is, shall we, if we notice tension in our body while we're doing this practice, should we try to release that?
I would say just be aware of the tension.
Just be aware of it. Okay.
And even I would say you could turn the attention, no pun there, turn the attention to the tension, and just observe the tension for a while, and see if that sort of unlocks the tension, releases the tension.
Okay. When I do the practice of, what do you call it? When you go point by point, regional, did you call it regional?
I call it the regional scan. That's my own expression.
When I do that, there's a really distinct difference between when I'm focusing on my head or face, which seems to be very sensitive and full of energy, and when I do the rest of my body, which I can't seem to relate to in the same way.
Yeah. I think it's well, particularly natural. I think that the face is more sensitive, I find. Certain parts, I guess, for different people are more sensitive than others. But don't worry about it. Like, don't form thought formulations around it. But just one goes through and tries to pick up whatever sensations one can. Okay. And then one will try, hopefully, as one keeps on attending to the body over and over, one starts to pick up more and more experience of what is taking place in the body, and sort of tuning into the bodily experience at subtler and subtler levels. As I said in that simile that I use, it's like people are on the other side of the wall whispering, and you are sort of listening in, trying to pick up what are they saying. And then as you listen more and more closely, you could start to pick up their conversation.
Thank you. So I found that really useful, actually. Thank you for that.
Okay, so now, we'll take one more question, and then we'll have to break for the tea break. So this is Miriam in California.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to understand when you mention when we have sensation, not to label it. That's a little bit difficult when you're sitting and you feel like the full energy going through your body and not calling it anything and just calling it sensation.
Yeah.
Is that the way of looking at it? Am I understanding it correctly?
I mean, if conceptual labels come to the mind, and no harm in that, but don't let the mind get too wrapped up in trying, how can I identify this? Is this the correct label? Is that the correct label? Is it this? Is it that? That's what one has to avoid. But if a kind of natural designation for the sensation comes to mind, just let it come. It's no problem.
So avoid the fabrication part of it and just acknowledge the feeling.
Yeah.
Or whatever that comes.
Yeah, what I call the conceptual entanglement. That's what one has to avoid.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, it's 4:11 now, so it's time for us to take a tea break. And then you could be back here at 4:30 for the talk, and you'll have opportunity to ask some questions based on the talk. Okay, so let us move on for our tea break. And thank you all for participating and joining us.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, so I'm going to leave the computer running.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, Bhante Mangala.
Oh, thank you. Good. Okay, we're off to a good start. Okay, so let's begin. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, so good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever. I'm very honored to be able to give a talk for this retreat. Hopefully we'll be able to teach everyone a little bit of something. So my opening quote that inspired me to choose what I chose comes from the Dhammapada. It comes from the third chapter of the Dhammapada, the Chittavagga, and it goes like this. Just as a fletcher strains an arrow shaft, even so the discerning man or person strains their mind, so fickle and unsteady, so difficult to guard. So what word stands out to me in this quote is straightens. How do we go about straightening the mind? Bhante Bodhi's already gone through several different ways about going about that. The 4 Satipatthanas, mindfulness of breathing. But in the whole of the Pali Suttas, there's many, many different techniques that the Buddha gives us. And one of these, actually 5 of them, that we can put into our practice comes from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 20, the Satipatthana Sutta. So I've chosen for my talk today to go over the Satipatthana Sutta and these 5 different practices on how we can straighten out the mind. So the background of this. So the English translation that Bhante Bodhi gives for the Satipatthana Sutta is the removal of distracting thoughts. So the Buddha gives us 5 different practices in this sutta on how we can strain on the mind. And they go from very simple to very drastic situations. The last one being the most drastic, so I don't recommend that we go straight to that one, but we'll go from 1 to 5 and hopefully be able to come to get a little bit of, glean a little something from these. So the Buddha begins, as always, he's talking to his disciples and he's giving them a Dhamma talk. And he says, when a practitioner is giving attention to some sign, and owing to that sign, there arise in them evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with hate, and with delusion. So, as always, when we're going to sit down to practice a meditation, we make the intention to sit and have this lovely meditation, but our minds being our mind, it doesn't always go that way. In the Chittavagga, or the chapter on the mind, in the Dhammapada, the Buddha compares the untamed mind, the uncontrolled mind, to a fish flopping around on the shore, gasping for air, trying to get by. And he also says that the mind is very swift, very quick. So as Bhante mentioned in his talk, and he's mentioned in other talks, the mind has many different pathways it likes to go down. It likes to go down to the past. It likes to go down to into the future. It likes to build up all kinds of stories to entertain itself because it's so accustomed to that. But the first of these practices, when the mind likes to veer off into thoughts of desire or thoughts of hate or thoughts of delusion, is to replace it with something that is wholesome. If the mind is going to want to speak up, it wants to do something, let's make it a wholesome activity. Let's make it a wholesome thought, one that's not connected with greed or hatred or with delusion, but with a wholesome activity. If you're having thoughts of lust or desire, then replace it with something that helps us break that, helps us abandon that. This can be anything. It could be just acknowledging that thought, acknowledging lust, 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 or desire, 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 or abandon, abandon, abandon. Anything that removes the desire, that helps us acknowledge that we're having this thought. If it's really ingrained in us to always kind of go to desire, then maybe we have to take a little more of a drastic step where we'll have to contemplate on the 32 parts of the body. We kind of examine this form of ours, starting with the skin and work inwards to blood and the organs and all those kinds of things, bones. We remove the pleasurable aspect of it. We kind of be honest with what this form really is, this form that we are so lustful over. Also, we can reflect on the impermanent nature of this form. That sure, we are lovely and beautiful, and the things that we desire are lovely and beautiful, but things change over time. What was once beautiful, which was so lovely once, eventually loses its luster. And when we have our thoughts of hatred or thoughts of anger, thoughts of frustration with someone, then we can cultivate metta or karuna or upekkha or mudita, loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy, and equanimity. So this first practice the Buddha gives us, we work to replace the unwholesome thoughts with wholesome thoughts. And he makes the comparison of removing a coarse peg with a finer peg. So this coarse peg is the unwholesome thoughts. The unwholesome thoughts are rough and lead to agitation, lead to further distraction, leads to not moving forward in our practice. But the wholesome one is fine pegs. They fit in better. They lead us further into our practice. They let us go deeper in our practice. So that is the first of the practices, replacing the unwholesome with the wholesome. Fairly simple. I'm sure we do that already in our practices. So the second practice that the Buddha gives in the Satipatthana Sutta is examining the danger in the thoughts. These thoughts are unwholesome, they are reprehensible, and they result in suffering. And the example the Buddha gives is wearing our carcass around our neck. Animal carcass or snake carcass or dog carcass or human carcass. So what he means by this is how embarrassing our unwholesome thoughts could be, that we see ourselves as Buddhists, we see ourselves as meditators. We're supposed to be cultivating metta and compassion and these lofty ideals, but yet we have these unwholesome thoughts swimming around in us. What would our teachers think if they knew what goes on in our minds? So the Buddha tells us to reflect on this, and we feel that clenching in our chest of, oh my gosh, yeah, these thoughts are ridiculous. They're unwholesome. They're embarrassing. Why would I want to spend so much of my time, so much of my energy catering to these kinds of thoughts? You know, in other places, he mentions this as, you know, what if people could read your mind? You know, so it helps us kind of be like, oh, maybe we really shouldn't be spending so much time on these thoughts. Maybe we shouldn't be catering to these kinds of thoughts. They're really just a waste of our energy. They're a waste of our time. They're taking up space in our mind. So why don't I work to letting them go, abandoning them? And seeing that, you know, they will eventually lead us to nowhere, where we could spend our time reflecting on wholesome thoughts, or letting go and going back to the breath, or labeling them, doing something other than just letting the mind run rampant and thinking, you know, these dangerous thoughts that eventually just will get us nowhere. So we work on reflecting on the embarrassing nature of them. So the third of these techniques that the Buddha gives us is trying to forget the thought. So a thought arises associated with lust or hatred or delusion. We work to just forget about it. The example the Buddha gives in the sutta is like you have good eyesight and you just close your eyes. So this is a little bit different from the other ones because it's kind of something that you could practice off the cushion. How do we spend our time? Where do we direct our energy? How, you know, do we just sit around watching TV all day, listening to loud music before meditation, going on binge watching something, you know, and then we think, oh, okay, we're going to go sit down and have a beautiful, lovely meditation. It doesn't work like that. What we let inside our mind by our, who do we spend time with, how do we spend our time by ourselves, has an impact on the cushion. So we examine how we spend that time. What do we do before we go sit on the cushion? So we need to prioritize our meditation. Don't drink 3 cups of coffee and expect to have a nice peaceful meditation, because the caffeine's just gonna over-energize you. It's gonna lead the mind to run around. You're probably gonna have to go to the bathroom as well. So don't drink your coffee right before your meditation. Maybe have a cup or so, but not like 3 cups. Don't binge watch things. Don't listen to loud music before meditation. Let your meditation time be a special time. It's a sacred time. It's serious business, so it deserves serious attention. So, but also when you are on the cushion and these thoughts arise, these thoughts of hatred, these thoughts of lust, these thoughts of delusion arise, also, and they're there and they're pestering you. Maybe you do need to get up, walk around, read a Dharma book, read something that inspires you, listen to something that's very soothing or calming. It's okay to put the meditation down for a period of time and do something that helps relax you, that helps let go of that. And then you can go back and sit. We can't, we're not always going to be able to just fight it every single time. Sometimes we just need to take a little bit of break. We need to step back. Okay, so that is the third of the techniques. The fourth one is working on stilling the thought. And the example the Buddha gives is, say you're walking down the street and you're walking pretty fast. But the thought arises, why am I walking so fast? Why don't I slow down a little bit? And then you slow down. But say you're walking a little bit slower, and the thought arises, why not I walk even slower? So you start walking a little bit slower. Why don't I stand still? So you stand still. Why not I lay down? You lay down. So this practice is a de-escalation by examination. Our thoughts, the thoughts arise, the distracting thoughts arise, and we examine it. We with wisdom and understanding, we scrutinize the thought. We analyze the thought. Why is this thought arising? How long has it been going on like this? What can I do to let go of it? What do I need to change in my thinking habits? What has to change? What brings about this obsessive thinking? So this is sometimes where it's okay to have a conversation with yourself, to ask questions, not where it's obsessive thinking, but it's not an unwholesome obsessive thinking. It's thinking with wisdom, with mindfulness, with clear comprehension. So you're working to untangle this web that we've sown in our minds. We're working on analyzing the thoughts and scrutinizing the thoughts. And as the more you do that, you might get to the bottom of it, and then it just fades away. So the fifth of the practices that the Buddha gives is crushing the mind with the mind. So I mentioned that the last one is the most intense of them, and it's not best that we make this the first one we go to. The Buddha says it's simply putting the tongue on the roof of the mouth, clenching your teeth, and just giving it your all. It's very drastic and probably will take a lot of energy. But yeah, so he recommends it. And the example he gives is like a strong man, strong person, taking somebody who's weaker into their arms and just like crushing them, just wrestling them. So it's forcing the wholesome thoughts into the mind. It's like the first of them, but just using our wholesome thoughts by any means necessary to obliterate the unwholesome thoughts in our mind. It's developing the wholesome by any means necessary. We just concentrate and work on developing it. Fairly similar to what the Buddha, on the eve of his enlightenment, he made that strong determination of not getting up until the bones break and the blood dries up. And it's that kind of determination of abandoning the unwholesome thoughts by any means necessary, that I'm going to develop this thought of metta and work on abandoning my anger. So just holding on to the thought of metta, just working at it, working at it, working at it, and watching that anger melt away, that frustration melt away. So we don't ease up, we don't let go, we don't dare indulge in those thoughts of the unwholesome, or the thoughts of anger, or those thoughts of lust, or those thoughts of delusion. So what are the perks of practicing this kind of way? What do we gain from by putting these practices into practice? The Buddha says, and the mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and concentrated. And he ends the sutta with, by saying that you become the master of your thoughts. So where we begin, the mind very agitated, it's very flopping around like a fish, it's scattered, it's moving in all different kinds of directions. But gradually we work at it, we put these things into practice, we don't give up, we chip away at it daily, little by little. We keep on adding more and more tools to our Dhammic toolbox for various different occurrences in our practice. And with that, we gain happiness, we gain peace of mind, we become masters of our mind. So, but it takes time, it takes patience, it takes energy. And that's the perk of these forms of practices. We don't just put the practices into use without gaining patience, without gaining right kind of energy. Mindfulness, concentration. We gain so many other different forms of so many different spiritual qualities, so many different spiritual habits by just abandoning the thought, by just filling in the unwholesome with the wholesome thought. It's not just thinking a wholesome thought, it's developing quality that wasn't there before. We when we let our minds just run around, we gain nothing, we just lose. But when we just replace the unwholesome with the wholesome, or abandon or forget, we change the subject, we're gaining so many other different better qualities, better habits. So, and with that, the more that we do that, the more that we generate, the more that we add things to our retinue of different spiritual practices, different habits, different qualities, then we can put an end to suffering and become the masters of our minds, as the Buddha says. So I think that's all I have to say on the subject. So yeah, thank you everybody. I guess questions? Okay, so Yeah, so I can take some questions if anyone has any questions. You can raise your hands or something. I don't know exactly where am I looking right now.
I don't see any hands raised yet, Bhante.
Okay. Yeah, she says she doesn't see anybody raising their hands right now. Okay, so I got one question. Hey Mahi, you can unmute. Yep.
Bhante, I just missed out. Where did you get the reference of this sutta? Because this 5 practice is very good. It's from the Satipatthana Majjhima section 20, you mean? Where is the reference?
No, this sutta is in the middle length discourses of the Buddha, and it's sutta number 20. So the Majjhima Nikaya, sutta number 20.
So, okay.
And the English translation is the removal of distracting thoughts.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome. You're most welcome. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Okay, Karen?
Hi, Bhante. Thank you for that lovely talk. I'd like to find out, how do you actually remove such distracting thoughts without aversion? It seems to me a lot of the language sometimes can be very mildly violent sometimes. I'm wondering, how do we actually go about removing those thoughts, distracting thoughts, without so much aversion?
I would say that's probably something that you're just going to have to experience for yourself. You know, we've seen what happens when we engage with these thoughts with aversion or dislike. You know, it makes you feel icky. It makes you feel bad. You know, you obviously had a thought that was unpleasing to you, had something that made you feel unhappy. So you got to kind of do that kind of self-conversation of like, oh, what am I doing? I'm just making myself feel even worse. So it's like, okay, why not I try something different? Why not I change the tune a little bit? Let me try it with something that's more wholesome, like, you know, metta or something, or, you know, just not engaging it with such aversion. You know, it's all there in the mind. We're fully capable of doing it, you know. It's just sometimes you have to hit your head so many times before you realize, oh, maybe let's not hit ourselves over the head so many times. Let's, you know, reflecting on what the Dhamma why do we practice the Dhamma? We practice the Dhamma to end suffering. So let's try that out. You know, let's put that into practice. And it's okay. It's okay that, you know, that we have thoughts that lead to anger. It's normal. It's part of being a human being, you know, but sometimes you just gotta be like, okay, whatever, let that go. It is what it is. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome. Anyone else with a question? Okay, Joyce?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for this talk, Bhante. So when we are recognizing these unwholesome thoughts that are leading to suffering, are we approaching them with this sternness and or are we approaching it with compassion? Like, okay, I'm basically ourselves, for having these thoughts. Are we bringing in self-compassion? Are we bringing in kindness to ourselves that, oh, we're having this and I need to change things? Or am I kind of going in there, and saying, you need to stop now, this is bad. You're going down the wrong path and you're a bad person for doing this.
No, you're just a human being with untrained or unskillful mind, just like there's billions of other people who are the same way. Every being who's not a fully enlightened arahant has various degrees of unwholesomeness in them, even to like the final stages of awakening. Until you finally completely purify the mind, you're going to have something. Of course, when you're an enlightened being, you're an enlightened being. You're pretty good, but there's still delusions and desires and things like that. So you're not approaching yourself critically. You're just being honest with yourself. You're being truthful with yourself. That, okay, this is not the most skillful, thought. But it is what it is. And that it's there now doesn't mean it always has to be there. There is possibility of change. There's possibility of improvement. There's possibility, it's much more interesting to become the master of your mind than just becoming a slave to your mind.
Yeah.
There's much more. We have capabilities. We have possibility. So there's no need, I told Karen, there's no need to beat yourself up or, beat yourself over the head and cause yourself suffering or pain. That's just adding insult to injury.
Thank you very much, Mate.
You're welcome. Okay, Samantha.
Oh, thank you, Bhante, for taking my question. I was just thanks. I was just wondering now how to the relationship between thoughts and emotions. They seem to sort of like go hand in hand, and say in stressful situations, and you've got everything around you, and if something, if you're reacting to something in a negative situation, I find it very difficult to stay calm and relaxed and let go, because instantly, the emotions will take over. And you could feel it even in the body, I suppose, depending on the intensity of the negative thought or the react situation. So, I mean, I think, your heart will go beating fast and all the rest of it. And you could feel all the sensations there. So how can one control oneself and then be calm and think of wholesome and letting go and metta and all those things? It wouldn't come just straight away. How can one control that?
Unfortunately, that's something that's just going to take years and sometimes years and years of practice and trial and error and developing your Dhammic toolbox of various kinds of techniques and practices that you have to put in effort in regularly and consistently, and making the situations where you can put those things in regularly by like going on retreats or having a daily meditation retreat, not like a daily practice, where you could, put them into practice and seeing the benefits of it. And once you've experienced it and you've seen the benefits of it, you've got that nice taste, that sweetness in your mouth of like, wow, this is so much better than just getting over anxious or getting frustrated or getting angry or whatever, and then seeing that there is possibility, that there is another way of going about it. And this is what so much of the practice is, of just realizing that we don't have to go that way. There is other ways, there's other directions in which we can take, but we're just so conditioned, we're so reactionary. But to see that, oh wow, there's other things that we can do, there's other ways of thinking, there's other ways of going about doing it. But it's something that has to be put into practice, put effort into realizing it and seeing it, and bringing it to fruition, or growing that habit.
Lovely. Thank you, Bhante. Yeah. So it's not an easy answer. It's just a gradual put the effort into practice, and what we're doing like on these retreats, feeling inside the sensations. And it's just, unfortunately, I had to sit on the cushion more often and practice. Yeah.
It is, unfortunately, there's no miracles. There's no.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, Kenneth.
Yes, Bhante. Just a quick question, Bhante, about the 5 methods that you taught us today. Ideally, are we supposed to start with 1, and if 1 doesn't work, go to 2, if 2 doesn't work, go to 3, or is it depending on the scenario, just to make a choice as needed?
I'd say probably the Buddha didn't really give any like explanations or anything in the sutta, and as far as I can tell from what I did in my research, there wasn't really, at least from what I saw, they didn't really mention anything. So I think it's basically it's but what you can tell is just like number 1, probably the most common one, we'll probably use the most, and number 5 is like if it's like really like obsessive thinking, that it's something that's constantly like a life or death situation where you have to like actually fight and grapple with it, so it's
I personally really like the 4th one, about slowing things down, getting almost like catching up with your thoughts, so so you don't react so fast. I like that a lot, the 4th one particularly. Thank you, man.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think there's like a little bit of something for everybody in of these techniques. It's kind of pick your flavor kind of thing.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, so there's one more hand. Okay, yeah. So Sumana.
Namo Buddhaya, Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Bhante, recently there is advice that I received that I shouldn't be sitting in meditation and just use vipassana to see everything in every interaction in life, to develop wisdom, and I don't know how to do it. Is that a good advice, Bhante?
That doesn't, that's not part of what I was talking about today. But if you want to write to me, we can deal with that later. Okay? So let's just focus on the practice that we're doing during this retreat, and we'll deal with that later on. Okay, so that ends the Q&A. So thank you everybody for participating, and guess we'll go into evening puja. Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break right now, and then we'll come back for the evening service. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, can everyone see the chanting? Can everyone see the chanting?
I think so, yes. They're shaking their heads.
Okay, good. That's a good sign. Okay, so now it's time for the evening service. To begin, you can put your hands up in Anjali as a sign of respect for the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Just as we did this morning and just as we did yesterday, this is not going to be the typical call and response, but it doesn't give you an excuse not to at least try reciting the Pali. So you can put your hands up in Anjali, and we'll begin with Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Okay, homage to the Buddha. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro puresa dhamma sarati satta deva manusanang buddho bhagavati. Namo tassa samma sambuddhassa ye cha buddha adhita cha ye cha buddha anagata pajupanna cha ye buddha aham vandami sabada nati me saranang anyang buddho me saranang varang etena sacha vajena hotu me jaya mangalang uttamangena vandehang padabhangsu varuttamang buddheyo kalito doso buddho kamatu tang mamang buddhang yavani bana pariyantang saranang gacchami. Okay, homage to the Dhamma. Swakato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipasiko upanahiko pacchatang veditabo vinyuhiti. Namo tassa niyanikassa dhammassa ye cha dhamma tita cha ye cha dhamma anagata pachupanna cha ye dhamma ahang vandami sabada nati me saranang anyang dhammo me saranang varang etena sacha vajena hotu me jaya mangalang uttamangena vandehang dhamman chatividang varang Dhammeyo kalito doso Dhammo kamatutang mamang. Dhammang yavanibana pariyantang saranang gacchami. Okay, homage to the Sangha. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Samicipatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Yadidang chattari purisa yugani atta purisa pugala esa bhagavato savaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjalikaraniyo anuttarang punyakitang lokasati. Namo tassa atta arya pugala mahasangasa ye cha sangha atita cha ye cha sangha anagata Pachupana Chaye Sangha Ahang Vandami Sabada Nati Me Saranang Anyang Sangho Me Saranang Varang Etena Satchavajena Hotu Me Jaya Mangalang Uttamangena vandehang sangancha duviduttamang sangeyo kalito doso sango kamatutang mamang sanghang yavanibana pariyantang saranang gacchami. Okay, homage to the three symbols. Vandami Chetyang Sabang Sabbatani Supatititang Saririkatatu Mahabodhing Buddharupang Sakalang Sada Imaya Dhammanudhamma Patipattiya Buddhang Pujemi Imaya Dhammanudhamma Patipattiya Dhammang Pujemi Imaya Dhammanudhamma Patipattiya Sanghang Pujemi. Okay, so going to the Metta Sutta. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Karaniyamatta kusalena yantang sattang padang abhisamecha sakujuja sujuja suvacho chassa mudvanatimani santu sakocha subarocha appakicho sahalukavutti Sandindriyo cha nipako cha appagabbo kulesu ananugittu na cha kudang samachari kinchi yena venyu pare upavadeyung sukino wa kemino hontu sabbe satta bhavantu sukitatta Ye kichipana bhut Bhakti Tassava Tarava Anavasesa Digava Ye Mahantava Majjimara Sakanukatula Dittava Ye Vadita Ye Chadure Vasanti Avidure Bhutava Sambhave Seva Sabbe Satta Bhavantu Sukhitatta Naparo Parang Nikubeta Natimeka Jinang Kanchi Biaro Sana Patigasanya Nyanyamanya Sadukamicheya Mata Yata Niyang Putang Ayus Ekaputang Anurake Evam Pisabhabutesu Manasang Bhavere Abharimana Metancha Sabbalokasmin Manasang Bhavere Abharimana Udang Adochatiriyancha Asambaddang Averang Asapattang Titancarang Nisinova Sayanova Yavatassa Vigadamiddu Etang Sating Ariteya Brahmametang Viharang Idama Titinchanu Pagamma Silava Dasanena Sampanno Kame Suvinayagedang Nahi Jato Gabbaseyang Punareti. Okay, the blessings after the sutta. Etena Satchavajena Sotite Hotu Sabada Etena Satchavajena Sabarogo Vinasatu Etena Satchavajena Hotu Te Jayamangalam Sabityo Vivajantu Sabarogo Vinasatu Mate Bhavatantarayo Sukhi Digayuko Bhava Bhavatu Sabha Mangalang Rakantu Sabha Devata Sabha Buddha Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sabha Mangalang Rakantu Sabha Devata Sabha Dhamma Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sabha Mangalang Rakantu Sabha Devata Sabha Sangha Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Akasatta Chabumata Deva Naga Mahitika Punyantang Anamoditva Chirang Rakantu Sasanang Akasata Chabumata Deva Naga Mahitika Punyantang Anamoditva Chiram Rakantu Desanang Akasata Chabumata Deva Naga Mahitika Punyantang Anamoditva Chiram Rakantu Mamparam Imena Punyakamena Mame Bala Samagamo Satang Samagamo Hotu Yavani Bana Patiya Idang Me Punyangasakavaya Hotu Sabbaduka Pamuchatu. Again, by saying sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so yep, so we'll be getting back together again at 7. So everyone have a lovely break, and if you want to continue to practice, you go right ahead. But we'll be back together at 7. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bhante.
Vừa học bao trời Buddha. Bow to Bande.